I think there is a fundamental question for all of us, and that is, what path are you on? And where do you think it's going, and where do you want to go? And I will tell you, although we're all in this class together, and certainly we're all in this world together, pretty much everybody is on their own individual path. And it would be interesting if you could delineate, what is your destination? What are you heading toward? What are you trying to arrive at in this lifetime? And even though you might all have, sorry, the same answer, I don't trust the answer. Because most of the answers that you would give are that you're heading toward some kind of comfort, some kind of idyllic way to live in this world. And each of you have a different idea of what that is. And each of you knows that it seems almost unattainable, because every time you move in that direction, it slips and slides, and suddenly you can't quite find your goalpost. The interesting thing about a meditative practice, a spiritual practice, is it kind of gives you words for a destination: liberation, realization, enlightenment, attainment. And again, every one of you and everyone who's listening has a different idea of what that is, what that means. And there are people willing to give you answers to that question. And I may have been one of them, but I'm not one of them at this point. But I can talk to you about the general framework. About 10 years ago, I had an awakening, and I thought I was enlightened. And for a period of time, I experienced something that was very other than the world we tend to live in. And it was quite beautiful, quite wonderful. And then it became more of what this world is, perhaps with a little more insight, a little more light in it, or enlightenment in it. And then, as I've said to you before, I've heard from awakened people that it really takes 10 years for enlightenment to happen. And I'm at the 10-year mark, and something has happened. And I cannot tell you that it is the epitome of spiritual awakening, or that it is the goal of spiritual awakening. I can't really tell you anything, because if nothing else, it has removed all knowing. So it's hard to describe from where I stand what the goal is, what the path leads to, but I have a lot more moment-to-moment clarity, which is not something I can hold onto. It just keeps arriving. And what arrives, which is really interesting, is so much love and joy and gratitude for simple being that I have never known anything like it before. And I can best describe it as this feeling that I have fallen in love with life, and that I have begun to witness the sheer awe and brilliance and wonder of what creation is, and that it is so beyond anything conceptual in my mind that all I can do is sort of bow down before it and appreciate the vastness and the magnitude of whatever this brilliance is that is in this very moment creating what we call reality. That beauty and that joy fills me. But then I have to tell you very honestly, I tip over right from the edge of total awe into total terror, existential terror. That isn't supposed to be part of the awakening experience, as far as I know. I may not be tutored enough in it. But the doorway between total love and joy and existential horror is so, they're so close together in my experience. And when it first started to happen, I kept thinking, well, then this whole enlightenment thing is a complete fraud. Here I am standing in front of this terror. And then slowly it's been dawning on me, who is reacting to that? Because the teaching that I've been giving you for the last month or two has been the reactivity at the core of who we are is who we are. What we react to and how we react defines us, makes us ourselves. We are nothing but a bundle of reactivity. And as awakening and enlightenment occurs, the reactions start to fall away. In the beginning, it's through practice and Rudy's work of, take a breath and ask for help to surrender, and things kind of fall away a little bit. In the awakening process, stuff kind of falls away by itself, much of it. And there's just nobody reacting. But when reaction occurs, you pay attention. And it can be little stuff that you thought you were free of that kind of shoots up in front of you. And there you are, enlightened being who's totally reactive to the stupidest thing. And then something really wonderful happens. It's, oh, I am that. I am that stupidity, and I am the awakening. I am all of that. And then this thing that comes into relating to existential terror tells you that is part of the equation. And what I have been practicing and doing, because I don't have a choice, is trying to accept the ultimate reality of death and non-being of whatever we call this thing, Bruce and my life and my wonderful wife and my wonderful children and my wonderful friends and students and people I love. The end of all of that, which brings a horror of feeling. And learning to, and I call it learning, finding a way or a path towards saying yes to that appears to be ongoing. And it appears to be part of the awakening, realization, liberation process. So that maybe there are people on a higher level of this. I don't really know. I don't really care. But what I'm finding is the work goes on. And the work is to accept the unacceptable, to face annihilation in a way with a kind of, okay, that does not come without having a path. If your path is toward awakening, realization, enlightenment, part of that path will be directly into the jaws of death, staring it in the face and finding a way to deal with that existential dynamic, which is beyond most understanding. And all of us have it, and all of us, in a way, bury it somewhere deep down. And we don't think about it, we don't reference it very often, but, as the car is skidding off the road, as the horror of whatever it may be suddenly appears in front of you, that's a very bad time to deal with finality. It's a very bad time to try to put this all into perspective. The great thing about a spiritual journey with a destination that's real is you can begin to love life, witness life, and sense the existential reality of life while you're still here. So in a way, again, what is your path? What are you aiming at? If you are aiming at stress reduction, you will get that probably to some degree. If you're aiming at a way to calm your bipolar nature, or to deal with your depression, or to deal with your sadness, or to deal with your confusion about life, meditation is good. And if that's the end of the path for you, that's fine. Nobody in life is required to reach for enlightenment, liberation, awakening, and all of that. Nobody's required to do that. Most of us live probably in this Buddhist space of many lifetimes to work at it. But when you find a life that suddenly says, time to wake up, time to do this, whatever that initiatory element is that makes that real for you, if you take that seriously, and it goes beyond stress release and beyond trying to find a calm way to live a difficult, tumultuous life, if it really is serious, then the practice is essential. I come to this every week, but what is the practice? The practice is asking for help to surrender, to let go of your reactivity to things. And let me go back to our essential chakra spaces and tell you, you can react to things mentally. No, that's wrong, not that, I don't want that, that's not a good thing, oh my God, why do they do that, why do they do that? That's a mental thing. You can react mentally. Ego, well, half of our reactions in life, if not more, are someone has affected our ego-minded persona. How can they say that about me? How can they do that? This is what I want. Now, I don't want what they want. This is about me. It's about me. That's a place to work. Heart. You react to things emotionally. You know, you have a part of you that goes, oh, I wish they loved me. Oh, I wish I loved them more. Why do they hate me? I don't know how to love. What is love? I mean, all of these issues in the heart chakra, which we have to deal with. Open-hearted, closed-hearted. Navel, this intuitive sense of plowing through life, taking risks, defining yourself. I always thought this was the hardest chakra for me to get to, and then I realized years later, I've been operating from that space since I was a kid. I was always so terrified of life, and yet I kept pushing through. I kept doing the thing I was scared of. I left home. I moved to New York. I took LSD. I traveled to India by myself, hitchhiking by myself, a kid who I'm terrified of being alone. You know, one thing after another, one risk after another, all coming from this navel chakra, which I did not feel at its depth until years and years and years of practice with Rudy, when it was like traveling into the deepest, deepest parts of outer space. And suddenly I saw this little flickering in my belly. And it was like a Sputnik or something. And it just said, okay, you found me. The G spot of risk-taking and of intuitive knowing. It was right there. Sex chakra, a dynamic chakra for all of us, of course. It really is about finding pleasure, finding completion, perhaps producing new life, perhaps just renewing ourselves over and over and over. Got to get that working one way or another, or you don't have any journey in this life. You've got to renew because there's a process of dying that goes on all the time. Parts of us fall away so new parts can come into play. I love watching my grandchildren teach me about this because they change every day. They are changing to become different people, more, bigger, grander. And they make all these mistakes, which I watch, and then they get it right, which I watch, and I just revel in their unfolding and in their rebirthing. And then finally, again, the releasing the energy from the base of the spine up the spine so that it begins to join all of these places together, and then it lifts you up and out of your human ignorance. It takes you on a journey into that which transcends life on this planet. Life on planet Earth is a challenge for everyone. It's meant to be a challenge. It's a struggle in which you find yourself, if you're looking for yourself. If you're looking for just pleasure, or to get married, to have a career, to be famous, to do any of these things, it will, if you work it, help you get to these places. The thing about getting to any of those destinations, and every one of you who's done that realizes that it doesn't take care of that much. It takes care of some things, but there's always the more and more and more and more. It doesn't stop. It really doesn't stop. And, to make it very personal, when I won an Oscar, what came to me after bringing it home was, now I got to win another one, so when I die, each of my boys have one. That's how it goes. That's the kind of absurdity of achievement in human life. And all I can tell you is, check your destination. If you're looking for worldly achievement, that's great. Get it, have it, enjoy it, but it will not take care of the moment where you face the existential terror that whatever you got, whatever you've achieved, is all going to be blown away. Until you make peace with that, until you stare that in the face and you start to have no reaction to the terror that is inherent in our experience. How do you get to that? How do you get to that level of absolute surrender? I thought in this awakening, enlightenment, liberation process that I had done that, but there it was, staring me in the face, this unbelievable reality that none of this achievement, attainment, worldly joy, worldly pleasure, beauty, all of that takes care of that existential fact. So, as I've said many times, my enlightenment is like, originally it was going from kindergarten to first grade, and now I say maybe I'm in second grade. I don't know if it has hierarchical aspect, but what I do know is that I am learning and I am facing my destination. The path has led me to the realization that the only way out of this unbelievable circle of life is a profound acceptance of its totality. Profound. And it's not something you do so much, although you may think so. It's something you surrender to, and it will happen. You will allow it to happen, or it will eat away at all of the constrictions that are getting in the way of it, and freedom will arise. Now, I'm sitting in front of this chart here, and I call it Buddhist. I don't know if you can see it clearly if I get out of the way. But this is the wheel of life and death, and it's all held in place by this god, I think it's called Mara. And I'm not a scholar about any of this, but all of us are somewhere on this wheel here. There are heavens and hells and animal lives, and there are places that are just joyous and wonderful, but they're all held by this God that absolutely eats you alive at the end. And yet outside of this God, there are these little angelic beings that just kind of are there. And in a way, the journey is not to find your place within all of this. You can, and you can have, let's say, 500,000 or 2 billion lives within this. But the path of spiritual awakening is to make peace with this guy. To just go, yes, okay. I am open to the finality of what this is. Now, I will tell you, if you're not on that path, that's fine. Have a good life, but you're going to meet him. That's all I can tell you. And you are either going to go, oh God, no, or you're going to go, oh God, oh God, oh God, or you're going to go, or maybe you won't do anything. Maybe you just sit there and go, here's another moment. Boop. That's probably what it is, really. Boop. We're here to there, whatever there is. And I will tell you, this journey that I've been on, rather than making me more intelligent, let's say, or giving me greater insight, is doing this thing which I've described. And I know it's very strange to hear me say it, but it is taking all of my knowledge and all of my knowing away. Because all of my knowing and all of my knowledge is related to Bruce. It's as if it's coming through this tiny little portal that has my name to it, or this name. And what happens as you start to awaken, or as you do awaken, is that what comes through has far more to do with what it is than with who you are. It just finds a voice. You become this, I'm like a radio. You know, and it's just coming through. The broadcast is not happening from this, it's through this. And it's trying to speak to you, and it's trying to say, what path are you on? What are you aiming at? What are you trying to get here? If you're trying to get happiness, you can have it, but it will be limited. If you're trying to get success or stress release or whatever else, you can have it. But at some point, this guy comes into the picture. The fact that you're looking every way but there is a human condition. Everyone's looking in all the wrong directions, not wrong directions, they're just not looking at that. And the problem with not looking at that is that is the one ultimate truth. And everyone who's honest about it is in terror of that. If they're not in terror, it's because they really haven't faced it or looked at it. Annihilation is a very powerful experience until you start to let go of the self that's getting ripped apart. And as you let go of that self, gradually this thing happens, this incredible allowing, bowing down before awe and wonder. And like I say, it has yet to completely free me from that thing that happens when after I finish putting the dishes away at night and I'm about to go upstairs and I'm standing in a room where the lights have to get turned off. It just hits me like shock of horror that this is only temporary. This is just temporary. It has an ending. And for me, because I'm older, it could be sooner than later. And because my mother had a stroke and I know all these things that happen to people, it could be any moment. The great thing about that is this process that I am in, and that we are all in if you're willing to be in it, is it's washing the part of you that reacts to fear, that reacts to existential terror away. I'm telling you, it has yet to complete its job with me, and therefore, if everything I'm saying to you is modified by that failure, and you don't want to listen to what I have to say, I'm fine with that. You know, I'm trying to give you the deepest version of what I know, the simplest truth that I have. And if it speaks to you, God bless. If it doesn't speak to you, you know, I'll probably sit here and just keep talking to the screen or the few of you who still feel there's a value in this. Mostly I'm a cheerleader. Mostly I'm trying to reposition you so that you wake up to the idea that this is a temporary experience in a world of wonder and awe and amazement and fear and all of that stuff. And you are here with a path, whether you know it or not, with a destination that you may have set for yourself, which may have nothing to do with the true destination. But we find our destinations, and really what we're looking for, and I will say this probably anytime I talk to you, what we're really looking for is to arrive at the true reality of what we're in, which happens to be happening right at this second. To arrive at now, to arrive at this, to be here. It's nowhere else but here. And if you really enter into here, you will be amazed at being here. This is not a haphazard thing that's brought us to this place. Something remarkable has occurred to give us life. But it also has given it to us, in a sense, as a loan, to experience stuff, to learn stuff, and then, if we're lucky, to find a way to surrender it all and walk away back into that very thing from which we emerged. And all I can tell you is this ride is, whether you like it or not, it's amazing. It's worth it on every level. To fall in love with life takes a while, because life comes with a lot of caveats and a lot of disappointments and a lot of reactivity. Smooth out that reactivity, relax, open all the chakras, get them all in alignment, find your path and your goal, which is to arrive at this moment. Find yourself right here now. Don't make expectations. Don't say, oh, it's got to be beautiful, or oh, it's terrible, or don't judge it at all. Just be here. Relax. Let all of your mind stuff fall away. And let the here and now reveal itself to you as it always has been and as you've always known it to be. This ground of being that is so magical, beyond understanding, truly, otherworldly and worldly, positive and negative, good and bad, yin and yang. It is all here. This is the absolute, and you are in it, wedded to it, living it, and the source of it. And the realization of awakening is how much source you are and how little you really are here. You are the totality of what this is, and you are blessed to be part of it. Again, open the spigot here and I can talk forever. And I'm going to turn off the spigot. But I want you to know it's your job to figure out where you're headed, what you're looking for. 99% of people in the world do not do that. Well, I can't really say that, because there are people who have what we'll call religious lives, who have an expectation of something there, but who don't necessarily do the work. So it's fine to have an expectation, but just don't rely on that to take care of it. In the simplest version of this, and I've said it week after week now, if your religion is working for you and your spiritual directive is working for you, the clearest sign of that is manifestations of goodness and kindness. Those are simple. They're also complex for egos because they involve thinking of others as much as or more than yourself. That is such a guidepost to religious life and spiritual life. But the practice that we have is dynamic, work related. It's trying to get all of these centers open, flowing, alive, generous, embracing of the totality. And when it comes through for you, you will be awake to the truth of who and what you are. And it will be a journey. It's not like a finality. It's just like an awareness of something infinite and eternal that happens to be at the source of your very being. Enough.